tere! Mina olen siis Monika Reppo.
Good afternoon. My name is Monika Reppo, research fellow at the Tallinn University Archaeological Research Collection, and I'd like to discuss how the social media can be a bridge between science and the public, and what are the challenges and opportunities which happen based on the social media. So I'll be following my personal and professional experience when it comes to the popularization of archaeology, but we'll start with numbers. So in order to understand what kind of role is being made by social media in the dissemination research result, we should look at the figures first. Only a quarter of the world population does not use internet, and 71% of the world has found the way to social media. In Estonia, 95% of the households use the internet, and 76.5% use social media. The most popular platforms have different considerations, but both in Estonia and the rest of the world, Facebook comes first, and the rest of the market share is covered by other platforms. See in these charts here, Facebook seems to have a really strong predominance. But if you pay attention, you can notice that the SCAT counted data set is missing TikTok, which has been downloaded by 37% of Estonian adults. So getting stuck to these tables can be misleading. For example, when it comes to Facebook, it has been long known that billions of user accounts, there are about 20 million, which belongs to these persons. And it's been calculated about 8,000 users die every day. So more important than chasing the numbers is knowing that most of the world has access to content created on social media. And so what is being offered there? So what does it mean for the researchers and science? So for decades, the communicating science was the ticket price and opening hours or traditional media. So traditional media being magazines, newspapers, radio and TV. So social media has basically taken away the limits for finance or time when it comes to sharing and disseminating research results. Of course, this doesn't mean that scientific communication should be made free of charge, but in principle it is possible and feasible even from the viewpoint of a museum or researcher with the smallest budget. So this has created a path for direct communication, not only between research institutions and the audience, but also between the audience and the researchers as individuals. So let's look at archaeology. Archaeology has been taught in Estonia for 106 years, and as a speciality, it has been more open to sharing the results as widely as possible. But in the last decades, there have been a very important change when it comes to the sharing of research results. So what leads archaeologists to social media? So of course there are many reasons, starting from the simple desire to share the results of one's research with the public or to popularize archaeology as a specialty. So it can be also a requirement of a conference or research project where the dissemination of the result or involvement of the community is mandatory for the archaeologist. But community involvement can also look different through co-creation, where the audience is an active participant or creator or collector of knowledge. And there's virtually no boundary between science and researcher and the audience. For example, collecting old photos, searching for parallels, or finding a specific location. Recently, the use of social media can be motivated by desire to fight against the spread of false information or to improve yourself. Would it be digital competencies, designing, getting also performance experience. So here we have a few examples from my own works where it's been required to use social media. So pre-recording presentations, as we saw one today, sharing them on YouTube. This is something which has been in practice for years. When it comes to the mapping of the target groups, maybe that's not as common. So European Archaeology Days, which take place in June, I asked what people actually want to listen to. So application of scientific projects, then sharing the outcome or target groups, then you have to put more and more details there. So you might also benefit from involving people in direct research. For example, finding out what is the letter on the spoon. Can you read this? What the letter is there? So is a circle a letter in an alphabet? Or is it just the tail end of the spoon? But more eyes is more eyes. So we were able to figure out all sorts of scratches. So we could find quite a lot of information about one little spoon. So when it comes to items like these, finding examples, getting help is also something which is common between the researchers. For example, if you know somebody who is collecting coins, maybe you send it to them. But if you're not into coins, maybe you figure out the century, but not any other details. So you need an additional set of ideas who would say that, oh, it's 1600 something. So so this kind of maintaining relationships and is very much possible through social media. So here we have good example of different styles on the same platform, although the author is the same. In addition to personal accounts, under this username, Monika, it's also the Society for Post-Medieval Archaeology. This is the channel I also manage, and also the Estonian Association of Archaeologists, their social media and website, because I am a member of the management board of both. So the researcher may be relatively free and spontaneous in the communication style, unlike a scientific article or conference presentation, then the posts on official channels tend to be more conservative in styles. Although it must be said that when it comes to the era of trends, there are many archaeological companies, associations, and departments that are very active, and maybe they are used to talking in a less serious manner about science. So regardless the style, the goal is to improve the accessibility to science, leaving aside the research itself, which has its the challenges or limits. So when it comes to creating scientific content, of course, first is lack of skills. One thing is to write scientific articles or books, but to film and edit and engaging social media clip skills may be lacking both in content format and technical solutions. So everything takes much more time when you originally thought. Time is spent for planning, creating, editing, sharing, and managing content, and as well as developing skills. And all of this requires consistent motivation. Time is also an important factor when it comes to the length of the content, the duration. Can we put this in 30 seconds? What about 10 seconds? Is the target audience expecting a few minutes of a short lecture? So how long does it take to capture somebody's attention? Although it's very easy to consume short content, but many people have found that it can be complicated to actually get remunerated for the work done. So how we can rate the price of the creation of the content plan, material made for different channels? Is it a volunteer hobby, or is it a job when you're a researcher? So in the case of content, it might be necessary to decide the use of personal brand, or you from visual style, or whether you go along with sensationalism. So how to share scientific content without trivializing science? Does video content and social media necessarily mean that you have a dance number and flashing lights? Or is it possible to break down the boundaries between the creator of scientific content and the public in a different way? And then the language, although in the internet has significantly improved the availability and dissemination of scientific content, we should take into account that the most common language on the internet is English. At the end of 2025, about 55% of the world's websites are in English. In languages which have a smaller number of speakers, then the language that dominates the internet may be restricting or hide the content of their own language because there's so much information online and the information is fragmented. This is influenced by local research policy because if the mother tongue is not valued as a scientific language, is not supported or developed, then research conducted on the local level may not reach the local audience because of the publication language, or it takes a long time through news in local newspapers. So this is also impacted by the open science principles, which spread slowly, and also the paywalls of scientific journals. Of course, there's a separate boundary is the choice of the social media platform for the researcher. So here, leaving Facebook aside, so these are the 6 most popular platforms. First 3 are mostly aimed for video content, the next 3 on short form text. So we have had short content online for quite a while, but now people are getting bored of bites on TikTok. It means that it's more popular if you have a little bit longer talk videos, which are not overproduced. Because when it comes to viewing long videos, that means that you have people going back to YouTube. So the one on the right-hand side, this is Twitter for the people who missed out the first wave. Most of the researchers have moved from Twitter to Blue Sky or decided not to produce short content. So are the boundaries gone in social media? The same as it is for archaeology. It doesn't really matter what kind of speciality it is you are offering your communication, but you have to first decide what language you should use for the content, who is the audience, who is being left out, and for whom it is restricted content or not accessible at all. So who is the target group? Is it one? Are there many? And algorithms are not making things easier because they can also restrict the content to a group or end up with the wrong group. So this means that you might get unattended contention. So you have an army of trolls with negative comments or content of bots working through automated scripts. So the robots are talking to each other and there are no humans actually involved. So negative feedback may also come from academia. For example, not all researchers may agree with the views which you are sharing, or they find that the popularization of science means vulgarizing it. And of course, in every profession, you have some conspiracy theories as well. So all of this I like to discuss based on my own experience. For years now, I have used my own research and others in order to create comprehensible and engaging stories about history and archaeology. And that means that I can introduce the findings and location changes in culture and time, problem areas, and as well as the career of an archaeologist, a scientist, a researcher. In my childhood, if social media had existed, would I have known earlier that archaeologists also work on a daily basis in Estonia, not only in Egypt or Greece? Of course, this is all a part of the process and ability to write a 2-page article with colorful pictures from a large thesis and make a choice on what might be of interest and new knowledge to provide through the short formats of social media is something which is evolving and improving all the time. Since I've been involved in the popularization of archaeology before, then during the corona pandemic, I tried to find a way how I can do it at home. So we were doing YouTube videos and Twitter tweets as part of the European Archaeology Days. And I have participated in the European Archaeology Days with digital content since 2020. As the coronavirus restriction decreased, that means invitations to schools and museums. But I had some health issues, and there was a possibility for me to reflect what's going to happen to my photos and images I have collected from excavations or research trips or project. So does it mean that I'm the only person who has ever viewed them? So as I was working on my doctoral thesis, I was already a convinced supporter of open science, and it seemed to me that social media is a shortcut to other researchers and as well to the public. So I consider myself as a micro-influencer. Then after I started posting, then I found out that the archaeology content I created was then covered by TV and radio. Then Estonian Association of Archaeologists social media was given to me. But besides writing a doctoral thesis, it was difficult to find a balance with several projects, but talking about the same thing, I became bored, although I could not see the same boredom from the public. I could not find this one unified platform, although I had ended up that the social media was included in research projects without asking me. So, and this has become an obligation now, which is paid for, but I didn't have my own vision or plan. So I can suppose that's the enthusiasm is the diagnosis. So I've been trying to recover in order to determine what my thoughts are and how to understand the boundaries. But the content I have on the internet will always be there. And active activity on social media has influenced my CV. And this was one of the reasons why I was chosen to be a member of Estonian Academy of Young Sciences. So there are many issues, invitations to lecture, comments on the street and tram, or family get-togethers, emails, requests, some praise, some insults, and reaction of a local community when they have received attention related to research, or should I see it as statistics and spread of content? For example, from my personal experience, I think the most interesting thing is that my active social media use, then people assume that my audience is in TikTok, so that's children. So I have to say that I have never set children as my target group. And TikTok, I think about there's a minority of the audience who's under 25. Most of the people are 25 to 46-year-old, and also the 50-plus age group is also notable. So sharing these numbers can also disprove the notion that certain channels are just for children's entertainment and not suitable for science. The advantage of archaeology over other fields, of course, is the relationship of individuals to history, objects, and the perception of the common past. Therefore, I believe that the impact should go beyond just making science more accessible. So before, you had to buy a ticket to a magazine in order to get access to research results. But now, accessibility is seen as self-evident. So what does this accessibility give us? From the archaeological point of view, it should be growing appreciation of a common heritage, or better understanding of history events in Estonia, and also better visibility of archaeology as a career option. So what do archaeologists still do in the daily work? Are they digging for dinosaurs? No, I don't. Do you get paid for each finding? No, I don't. So why do they hide the findings in repositories? So these are a few of the questions I've been asked, and this shows us that why accessibility is good. And the border is kind of gone. The message has not arrived yet. And there are some limitations or restrictions still set. So this has all given us a possibility to carry out some self-reflection. I would refer to the article in the middle, recently published, where writing this article was based on the situation where the archaeologist was on a site and described the guests what they had found. And the guest informed them this is not true because it was in Wikipedia, it said something else. So this was a point of discussion that maybe archaeologists have also an obligation to update the content online because 40 years had passed from the discovery, which had changed things. And perhaps this is also shifting your own personal boundaries. Do you see yourself in addition to the conference audience, to open yourself to the rest of the world? Are you ready for it as a researcher? And if not, then why? Why don't you want to share? Is there something we want to change? Or do you think this role should be carried by others, other archaeologists, researchers, and so forth? But this is it. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.